Well, hey everybody, I'm the Crockett Cooner, and this is the Crockett Coonhound Show, and you have made it to Fireside Chats with the old Cooner here. It is January the 14th, 2024, and today, guys, I'm going to talk about something. I'm going to talk a little hound dog health, okay? Now, for those of you that are new, welcome. For folks that follow me all the time, you know that I was a avid outdoorsman, especially in my younger years. I've always had raccoon hunting hounds, mostly black and tans, but I'm now into the X-breed stuff, the Walker Hound, red bone crosses and things. But tonight I'm going to talk a little health for them and how the old Cooner here does it. Now, I need to go ahead and say right up front, guys, at the first of this video, this works for me. It doesn't mean it'll work for you guys. And if you don't own a hound, or if they have a pre-existing health condition, or they're extremely young or extremely old, some of what I'm going to tell you guys tonight is not a good idea. It's not. But we're going to start off. Where to start off? We're going to start off with something I've talked about, and that is bedding and wood chips for hound dogs that stay outside. Now, guys, I personally, inside of my dogs, like homes and things that are dog houses, I do in fact use red cedar. Sometimes I use mixed wood chips, which would be a mixture of pine and red cedar. Usually in their homes I sprinkle it around on their pens, and I also use straw, not hay, but I do use straw. Many times it helps absorb water and things from rain and urine, feces. It makes it easier to clean up. Also, it helps keep them warm and dry and things for dogs that stay outside. But now, let's talk a little something. Why cedar? Why not some other kind of wood? Because some people do use cypress. Some people do just use pine. Folks, inside of cedar wood is a chemical which gives it its red coloring and things, and if I say it correctly, it's called tannins. And it's also the same thing that they use many times in leather dyes and things like that. The oil, it's basically an oil. It's like sap in a cedar tree. The oils repel things like ticks and fleas, which we know ticks are in the arachnid family, and that is why I use it. But now a little side note, for anybody that is new to keeping raccoon hounds or any dogs outdoors, when it comes to bedding, guys, I personally suggest that you use bigger flakes, not the small stuff, not the sawdust stuff. And I'm going to tell you why. Many times they'll breathe it in. Many times if you also have a dog, especially a hound, that jumps around in the pen, they're excited to see you when you come out there and feed them. They'll flick the dust and things into their food bowls. It's generally not going to hurt them if they ate a little bite of it with their food, guys. But I mean, let's face it, they're not woodpeckers. We don't want to feed the hound dogs or any of your dogs a little bite of wood. I know dogs chew on sticks, but we don't really want to do that. Now, that's going to bring me to other stuff. Some people use like cypress and things. So with all those pieces of wood, most of the time it is the bigger flakes, and the main part of it is it keeps it from getting in their eyes, guys. Now, folks that are new to the coon hunting world, that is something to be concerned about. That is why the old Cooner here, when we're talking actual going out and carrying the hounds and doing a little raccoon hunting, I mainly do it in wintertime, guys. Now, in years past, I would in fact hunt in the summer months. I don't like that. I have had 2 dogs, I believe, get grass seeds in their eyes as they went through. One of them, I luckily got it out of one of the hound's eyes, but another hound that I had years ago, she wasn't so lucky. I had to take her to the vets. There was a procedure. They had to drill a hole in the roof of her mouth and clean things and all kinds of stuff. She had to take antibiotics, and you don't want to be involved in that. So a little ounce of prevention, because the same can be true with wood chips inside of your dog pens. Now, let's move on a little bit. Let's talk a little feeding. What do I feed my hounds, and why do I feed them? All right, guys. Now, generally, now that I don't hunt as much as I used to, I still feed a generally good quality food. I just feed regular old dog chow many times. But dependable on the time of the year, guys, I like to look on the back and figure out what the crude protein and the crude fat is. Now, let me explain how I do this, all right? And like I said, this works for my dogs. It may not work for your dog because sometimes certain types of food can cause hot spots. Some dogs are allergic to certain types of food, so you always got to keep that in mind. But myself, guys, when it is winter time, like it is right now, extremely cold. I think here in southern Middle Tennessee, this coming up Monday, they're expecting it to be 3 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's going to be pretty cold. Definitely going to have a fire going for that one. But for my hounds in the wintertime, guys, I do feed a lot of like lamb, rice, and meal. Things are extremely high in fat and protein. If you look on the back of the bag where it says crude fat and crude protein, I like the numbers to be a lot higher than like what it would be with a good summer mix. So to give you an example, like I said, I just feed dog chow now. A lot of like lamb, rice, and meal and things, or a lot of sports type of mix, like their high maintenance blends in different dog food companies. I will feed that in the winter time because the dogs need it, because of the temperatures. They are in fact exerting more, their body is, even if they're standing out in the pens. And for folks that are hunting with their dogs in the wintertime, even folks that have like Labrador retrievers, other types of sporting dogs, that's something to remember. But then as we move on into spring of the year, I will look on the back of the bag, guys. I'll come down in my crude fat, crude protein. The numbers won't be as high. I'll tone it down. And then in the summertime, I'll go to a good summer blend, which is a really low mix of numbers as far as the crude fat and the crude protein goes. Now, I also do, guys, feed my dogs some table scraps. I know a lot of folks disagree with that. But it was said to me once by an old coon hunter one time at a big event. I was talking about it. Everybody was talking about these high dollar dog feeds and everything. And he looked right at me and he said, "Son, you're one of the only ones that seems to make sense." He said, "What do you think we fed dogs before we had dog food?" He was like, "We fed them table scraps, and certain types of table scraps from people can be good for them, but other types cannot." For folks that don't know, chocolate is not the best thing for a dog. The setup of their body inside is much different than us as humans. When we eat chocolate, it doesn't take long at all for it to digest and go through our body. But with a dog, when they digest it, it takes longer for it to go through their body. So it does, in fact, can be detrimental on other organs in their body. So that's something I always keep in mind. But myself personally, guys, another little nifty side note here on some hound dog health and maintenance. I have in times past, when we were talking intestinal worms on dogs, if I just wanted to, keep my dogs healthy, I'd make a good pan of cornbread, fried cornbread, and feed it to them. But you don't want to do it too much, guys, because you can in fact give a dog trench mouth doing that. But there's a few other little things. Now, as far as watering, I personally always keep water out for my dogs. I know some people don't. They just do it, on and off throughout the day or when they feed. I keep water out all the time for my dogs, guys. It is possible for a hound to dehydrate in wintertime. It doesn't just have to be hot conditions. And I know it can be a pain there in cold weather to go out and break the ice. And there's been the debate for years about heaters for the water and if they could be dangerous for the dogs and things. Now, that brings me to another point, guys. When we're starting to talk about other things that could happen to dogs, and we're starting to talk about like health things and what to give them. Now, personally, guys, here a few years ago, there was a lot of talk on even human beings when it came to things like ivermectin. And if folks don't know, well, that is in fact a cattle wormer. Now, I do give that to my dogs as far as for heartworms, but I will kind of go through right quick and explain how I do it. It doesn't make it right, and I will tell you, I know this from experience, if a dog already has a heartworm and you give them ivermectin, it is not a good thing. So I would only give it to dogs in certain breeds of dogs. That's another one. I'm pretty sure Huskies cannot take it. They cannot. But like I said, guys, just because I'm saying it doesn't make it right for you. It's just what the old Cooner here does. Now, a half a cc of cattle ivermectin will in fact do an 80-pound hunting dog, and that is an injectable shot, right? But what you have to remember, guys, is ivermectin is made for cattle. And if you give a dog that has a pre-existing heartworm that particular shot, what happens is the suspension of the medication is different, and it will in fact kill the worm so quickly in the dog's heart that it can't pump it out, which in turn basically makes your dog have like a blockage or a heart attack, and unfortunately it can result in death if you don't know how to do it. But the other benefits to it, much like with cattle, when they sweat, when it comes through their pores, it helps with things like lice. It helps with a few other things too. It's a really good drug to give a dog, especially a working type of hound dog. Now, a lot of folks will also give them zentramectin, which usually comes in a paste. It's more like a horse wormer. You give it to them in the mouth. You just squirt it in, and they seem to like it. I myself, though, guys, I used to love some stuff called propamylate is the name of it. It's actually wormer for human beings, guys, for intestinal worms. I would literally just open their mouth, give them a squirt. It tasted like honey. Like I said, it had the human directions, and the old Cooner here had a little taste once, and it did taste like honey. And it does the same to a human being as it does a dog. But would keep them on a good schedule like that, especially if my dogs have been out as far as working. They've been in the woods, they've been out hunting around, like maybe where there was a lot of livestock, especially cattle or pigs. I would definitely keep my dogs up and going, because it goes without saying, guys, all hunting dogs need to have their annual rabies shots. Rabies is, a lot of folks think that it's totally gone here in America. I beg to differ. Occasionally they do get some cases of it. I personally, guys, little side note, was with another fellow that was a hunting companion one night. We were just driving down the road and we saw something to our right, middle of the night. We'd been coon hunting. It was a coyote that ran out in front of us. He stopped. He was biting at the air, biting at himself. Headlights of the truck right on him, and we got out. We were going to kind of end it for him because he was starting to slobber at the mouth, and then it's like his brain almost caught up. He realized we were humans, guys, and he took off, but he was rabid as rabid could be. Went out across another field, and that's just one example. I've heard other people mention things. So definitely a good rabies shot is what all dogs need, even dogs that stay in the house. They need the rabies shots. But like I said, guys, this is just personally how, mainly too, when I used to hunt professionally, guys, a lot of folks followed me here that used to hunt with me. That's pretty much so how I took care of my dogs and what I gave them and things. Now, in other times, in times past, if my dogs were exerting a whole lot, I have given them things like certain types of things for canines, like powder that goes in their water to help with like joint problems. I had some dogs that were older, because let's face it, much like an athlete, they're the athletes of the dog's world. They're running all the time, they're putting out energy all the time, so they need a little help. Another little nifty thing you can do, guys, I used to do it a lot, especially for folks that are new to hunting, and there's a lot of videos on it. I believe years ago I made a video on this, but it's called tender touching a dog. Now, what that amounts to, guys, is basically like a massage for a dog. You can rub them down. I know on different platforms you see videos and things where there are people, chiropractically lining up animals like their back's hurting or their neck. That's not a bad idea, guys, but along with that, much like for the muscle, you can give them like massages. They call it tender touching. There's other things that you do where you rub between their eyes down to the tip of their nose, rub the tips of their ears. And when you do it correctly and they know that you're going to do it, they like it, it feels good, and it'll relax a dog. Many times my hounds would come out of their dog pens, especially during hunting season, and buddy, they were ripping and romping. And for folks that, do in fact show dogs. Now, I did show my hounds and things in bench shows. You want them to get up there and stand correctly, but you don't want them to be so overexcited you can't deal with them. Sometimes if you just sit them up on a table there in the yard, guys, a good tender touch, or you can even do it on the ground, the way you rub them. I know there's some good videos here on YouTube about it. But it'll even work good for dogs that are inside of people's homes. If you have a dog that seems to be hyper a lot, or you've ever noticed you have a dog that's very hyper and plays and things in the backyard, and then it seems that maybe he fell once and his leg kind of bothers him or something. Sometimes a good, what they call tender touching a dog, can help them out tremendously. Just how you rub them, rubbing their muscles and things, making them feel better. That's always something good. Other things, guys. Now, as a coon hunter, a lot of folks disagree with me on this, but many folks don't know, when you go hunting with raccoon hounds, they have a dog box that they ride in, and there's boxes for pickup trucks and boxes that go on luggage racks on the backs of cars, and some on ATVs, and all types of boxes. A lot of people disagree with that, but I do both, guys. I'm just going to tell you. Now, especially with a hunting dog, if you've ever been out, you've been on some type of an ATV, you might gather the hounds there from where you've turned them loose. Maybe they made a tree. I wanted my dogs to be able to learn to ride just standing in the back of a pickup truck if we drove it through the woods, or the back of some type of a all-terrain vehicle. And we would, in fact, kind of harness them in, but I wanted them to know how to ride in a box and in the bed of the truck. So I'm one of those folks I don't believe you can go wrong with training, guys. A lot of people, especially with coonhound lovers, they're interested more in their dog coming to them or going to perform the act of hunting, or, but they seem to forget, sit, stay, come to me, speak, and all of that. Just because they're hunting dogs, guys, doesn't mean you can't train them to do what every other dogs do. And I've said it many times before, for folks that want a dog that'll get out and go with them, but then can be one of the biggest couch potatoes, even if you're not a coon hunter. Sometimes a good hound can be one of the best family members there is. They're great around kids most of the time too, because they're very sociable animals. They were bred like that for years. But now, moving on a little bit, guys, let's talk about some other things as far as hound dog health and that type of deal. Now, personally, guys, I let my hounds stay out, but here recently I have brought them inside, cleaned them up, brought them in the house, because the temperature has been so cool. Now, they do stay in their kennel crates. I don't let them run all over the house. But, a lot of people disagree with that. I've heard people in times past say, well, it'll ruin their nose. Well, I disagree. It might, if they were, in fact, somewhere, guys, where you were burning a lot of wood in your home, the smell of it might bother them, I guess. Just like it could anybody if it was extremely dry air in there. But I disagree with that, guys. I believe it's fine to, at least, if nothing else, bring them in when the temperatures get so low. As far as extreme heat, now, guys, I'm here in the southern U.S., and I accommodate for that many times. I have put wading pools like little kids play with. I have got special ones, cleaned them up, put them out in the dog pens, let my hounds splash in them, play in them during the day when it was hot, and things to help them cool down. But that brings me to, coat maintenance and things as far as dogs go. Now, guys, throughout time, I have used all different types of methods to clean my hounds and stuff in the summer and the winter, whenever. I personally, guys, if I had to use anything, I'm just a good old hearts guy. I am. But I do like the coconut stuff. I like the things that repel ticks and those types of things from them, you know, like a good flea type of shampoo. But I also used to use like show sheen on my dogs. After I got them good and dry, I would brush it into their coat. It had a lot of oils and things. It was good for their hair, you know, good for their skin. And I did a lot of that in the summertime. But back to something that I said earlier, why would I use straw and not hay around my dogs? A lot of folks don't know that hay can cause hay mange in a dog, because there's different types of mange. You know, like Scothic, it just depends on what type of mange you're talking about there, but it's basically a mite, and it gets on them into the stem of the hair there, and they scratch to the point they can't, you know, they'll scratch themselves raw, and then it can set up infection. And that is definitely something, as a dog lover and a dog owner, you don't want to be part of, guys. You just want to go ahead and nip that in the bud if you can, right off the bat. So straw is always the way to go for folks that are new to the coonhound world, or any dog world for that matter of fact. You know, not just hounds, but any dog can in fact, you know, pick up mange if they're around it. But same way with collars, guys. I've done a lot of riding on those types of things. Now personally, because my dogs are still sporting types of dogs, I like a good reflective collar. It's basically a nylon coated type of collar. It reflects at night like a stop sign on the road does. So if they were to go out, car saw it, it would reflect. But a lot of dogs can't wear that. Some dogs can only wear like a leather collar. Some dogs can't even wear the leather or whatever. They have to wear straight nylon. So that is definitely something to keep in mind right there. And definitely never put your collars too tight. You know, we've all seen the horror stories where somebody left one of them, and that is never a good thing, guys. That's just poor maintenance on taking care of any type of animal that you you know, see as a family member, or you respect or love or take care of. In my opinion, you know, just when you've done something like that, you just don't even need to be in the hobby or the sport or the owning of them. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to stop tonight, make you guys a little video, kind of some of the things that I do as far as, you know, coonhound maintenance, what I do as far as feeding them, taking care of them and things, how I did it years ago. Another little nifty side point I wanted to throw in here, guys, was cleaning around your dog pens. Now, I used to use straight Clorox bleach. I would dilute it down, clean their buckets extremely good. Then after I cleaned them out with bleach, I would go back, and I'm speaking water buckets and food pans, I would go back with just some type of a good antibacterial dishwashing detergent, clean it. Also with their dog houses. Mainly do that though in the summers. That's when I had most of the problem. You know, in the winter time, most time they're pretty good. If you have a younger dog, a lot of times they'll, you know, defecate or something inside of a dog house, and then you definitely need to take care of that issue. But, you know, they kind of learn their pen and things, because let's face it, dogs originally came from their wild ancestors, which lived in dens and they hunted in packs. So, but anyways, guys, I just wanted to stop for a minute, kind of tell you guys what the old Cooner here does, and kind of what Scooter did too. He was a dog lover for years. They had hunting dogs when he grew up, but wanted to touch on that for our folks that follow us here at the Crockett Coonhound Show that are new to coon hunting, because I've had a ton of people say, well, do I have to have this light, or how do you take care of the dogs, or how did you do it? And that is what I do, guys. You know, still to this day, doesn't mean I'm not up for any new practices. I'll always adopt a new practice if it's good. But roughly, that's how I take care of my dogs just here at home. So anyways, wanted to make that video for you guys, and I say it all the time, guys. Definitely stay safe on the water. Stay safe in the woods and stay tuned here at the Crockett Coonhound Show, and myself and Scooter will have you guys another video dropping shortly. You guys have a great day.